days where it's like, I don't want to do this at all. But, through what I've experienced, in terms of destructiveness and adversity, and then, what I've overcome by not being a piece of shit and doing the hard thing, that people don't want to do is just been life-changing for me.
I'd rather be sidelined trying to achieve greatness than watch greatness achieved and it only set on the sideline. Now introducing your host, Jacob Emery.
This episode of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast is brought to you by Unlocking Greatness with Jacob Emery, a coaching community built for those ready to become the strongest version of themselves. Weekly calls, proven playbooks, and a community built to grow. Greatness is not given, it's unlocked. Join us today at jacobemery.com or DM coach at jacobemery44 on all social media platforms.
Welcome back to another edition of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast. And today's guest, Kody Rostofer, part of the Unlocking Greatness coaching program. This man has already made great progress. Kody, I cannot say enough about the progress you made. Extremely proud of you. Extremely grateful that you're in the coaching program. One hell of a story, my friend. We've been chatting it up for about 10 or 15 minutes, maybe a little longer. And I've learned a lot already about you. Small world connections, hometown connections, went to the same high school, years apart, but same school. And it's amazing, Kody, how adversity can become something of accomplishment, how setbacks become our success story. Let's start with Kody Rostofer himself. Who is Kody Rostofer and what do you do?
All right. So I'm Kody Rostofer, and I am a mechanical engineer is my degree. I'm a manufacturing engineer by occupation. I graduated from Licking Valley High School in 2015, quite a few years after you, I should say. But yes, very small world, same, culture, this, that, and the other. And after graduating high school, I quickly pursued, an engineering role as far as going to college. I was pursuing a bachelor's degree at the time. Freshman year of college, it was very sour. I, recognized that I wasn't ready for that life. I, partied my way through it, academic probation, this, that, and the other. Ended up getting kicked out of Ohio State University. Went to Central Ohio Technical College right after that. Started my engineering role. Was doing very well. Even I think throughout my full time at COTC, pursuing that mechanical engineering degree, which was an associate form rather than the bachelor's form. I think that, I had done very well. The grades were very well. You and I touched base, in 2019. So I had, from 2017, on, I had worked a full-time job. So when I'm speaking of going to school, we're talking about part-time. So I graduated high school, was working full-time, and then started working at tech full-time. And then they were paying for me to go to school. So the company I'm actually currently enrolled in as a manufacturing engineer, they were paying for me to go to school as a mechanical engineer at the time. So in 2019, I had got addicted to opiates, just to kind of cross base on that. That was a full year string, I should say. Financially was probably the biggest burden. I had a lot of money saved up for my age at the time. That disappeared very quickly within a few months, and, was quite obviously a setback. Fast forward, I overcame that end of 2019, 2 days before Christmas, I had came home from rehab. Everything was going well. In 2021, still working as an operator at the job I was working at. In March of 2021, my wife and I bought our first home, which is, pretty much seemingly becoming our forever home. End of 2021, I graduated with my mechanical engineering degree. And then I still, at 2022, January 1st, I took on a manufacturing engineer role at the company I work for that I had mentioned was paying for my tuition, this, that, and the other. So, everything was great up until then. 2022, I took on that role. Life was good, living life as a manufacturing engineer. Bills were paid, money on the side. Everything was good. It was 2023. I started, there's a liquor store probably 2 doors down from where I currently work at still. And, every night, I'm dabbling into shot glasses, this, that, and the other. And it took effect. I would say that the alcohol addiction I faced was a little more lengthy than the drug addiction I faced, but I'm talking, fifths, half gallons of bourbon, that were disappearing within 24-hour time frames for maybe a 3-year period. And it became quite obvious that the physical side of that was being affected. There was a physical addiction to that. So in 2024, I'm going to say August of 2024 was my first attempt. So a little over a year now. And it was probably the recognizable thing I had ever gone through. And for about 3 months, I didn't touch anything to drink. I had, just to be completely honest, dabbled back in, drank this, that, and the other, since then, but, never into a physical addiction type of way. But yeah, I guess just in a nutshell, that's what my life's been up until this point. My wife and I got, to end that, my wife and I got married in November of 2024, which would have been 2 months after my, original alcohol sobriety date there. So,
man, you have lived a life of destruction, complete destruction, but tailored it in a way that destruction became discipline
somehow.
So talk about today. Where are you at today, current state, with discipline and not the destruction?
Yeah. So, to translate that, August of 2024 was when I quit drinking alcohol, at an addictive state. Going into, I want to say January 27th. So my birthday is June 27th. 1997 was when I was born, 28 years old now. But January 27th of 2025, this year, I had woken up, and I don't know why there was this crazy goal in my head that I'm going to retire by the age of 40, right? And, the more I dig into it, I don't know what retirement looks like, but it's like, I'm not going to go and show up and work for someone else by the time I'm the age of 40. On January 27th of 2025, I wake up and, I'm 12 and a half years away at the time from being 40 years old. And I was like, there's no way. And I remember it was, 3 or 4 in the morning. I go to the gym a little earlier now than I used to, but, I would show up at 5 a.m. at the time, doing my workouts, heavy lifting, running, long distances. I would at least do a 5K every single day. With that, I translated it in over time. So that was January 27th. It's now, almost a year later. I was 252 pounds at the time. I've lost, 55, 56 pounds. I'm down to, the 196 range. With that, I've kind of hit a wall. We've discussed that. But, just getting there was one of the greatest things I've ever experienced. And, waking up every morning, wanting to go to the gym, I've learned through standards of greatness, one of the things that I'm very good at, of those 5 things that you follow is the no snooze thing. My wife thinks I'm crazy when my alarm goes off at, 3:00 in the morning and I'm literally on the floor going, and it's like, I don't want to do that sometimes, but
rarely do you want to.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think maybe through an addictive personality, it's like sometimes I lose sleep over it and it's like, I have to do this. And it's like when that alarm clock goes up, I'm, foot's on the ground and I'm going, but then you've probably experienced it. There's other days where it's like, I don't want to do this at all. But, through what I've experienced, in terms of destructiveness and adversity, and then, what I've overcome by not being a piece of shit and doing the hard thing, that people don't want to do it's just been life-changing for me.
You get to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. You can say that you get to do it because in 2019, you might have thought differently about life looking back now. Whatever happens for us in life, I believe happens for us, not to us. Life in itself is something that we have very little control over life. But if we can't control the controllables alone, our mindset, how we show up, getting your ass out of bed, no snooze when it's time to do that, there's a continuity to the daily regimen. If you have that daily consistency and you can apply it long term and have the continuity, you don't work out today for today. You work out today for 6 months from now. You don't see any results for what you apply today, right now. Normally, it's for the future. Your cardio session, your workout session, a powerlifting meet, all of that is for a future state of who you want to become. And we don't build muscle whenever we're doing the teardown of the muscle in the gym. We put in the work today and recover from it and then build over a long period of time. Delayed gratification is something that I think has to be taught today because it's not very found in nature anymore. You don't have a lot of things that you have to go actually earn and work for. The news, instant. Anything data driven, technology driven, it's instant. Within seconds, you can, anything you learned in school, you can learn in seconds.
Yeah.
You just got to ask the question. But physical fitness is something that cannot be bought.
Right.
You can buy accelerators, but there are no, hey, take me to this instant gratification thing. You have to put the work in. I think entrepreneurship's the same. There is no shortcut. There are accelerators. And I think accelerators are resources that are tools that you can acquire, whether it be, software, hardware, whatever. There's tools that you can get, like a hammer and a nail and a piece of wood. You can put the wood together with a hammer and a nail. Then there's process. It's how you do the thing. And then there's people that can help you get there quicker. Investing in yourself is huge. I think for you, I don't know that you'd ever invested in yourself the way that you had when you joined the coaching program. Talk about the confidence that you gained immediately just from investing in yourself. There had to be was there any sense like, I did this thing for me? And maybe you may have never done that for you, where you had rehab, you had other things that you had done, but did you directly do that because you wanted to, or was it kind of forced on you? Like this one, I want to be better. I'm going to invest in this and see what happens.
Right. No, so the coaching program has been great. Unlocking Greatness has, changed my life in a very few months. I would, a very short amount of time. I've only been involved in, now for a few months. Touching base on that, when it comes to rehab, I don't think I was necessarily forced into it. There's a lot of people, their parents or, judicial system, whatever it may be, forcing them into that. I think there was some little bit of recognition like that, like if I continue to proceed this way, life's going to go horrible. But with that, it was like, I didn't really want to. It was just recognizing like it's fight or flight situation.
Right.
Like if I don't do this, like
I'm gonna die.
Who the hell am I going to be? Yeah. So, I completely agree with you saying, like, I would say that the Unlocking Greatness program was probably the first thing that I've actually committed to willingly, 100%, with full intent. And it's been great ever since, the lessons I've learned from you, everybody in there, it's crazy how I joined that group as an engineer and, approaching an engineering consulting role. And there's, now that Jeffrey's joined, that's a little different story. But up until then, there, yourself and not a single other person in there could necessarily relate directly to that. But there's been so many valuable lessons, whether it's like personal, even business, I've learned, standard operating procedures from some of, the people in the group that I could have never imagined, paths would align to where, the process still makes sense, and a sense of clarity. So I think Unlocking Greatness has been life-changing for me, and I'm very thankful for that.
Innovation comes from other industries. And when I think we talked about this last week, talking about Henry Ford, how he studied a meatpacking plant, how they processed and packed the meat on what is now the assembly line for vehicles. Right. And they had a process 1 through 10. This is how you do it, step by step by step. And then that's how Henry Ford took what was a 12-hour process to put a car together and got it down to like 3. Right. Like it was a dramatic cut. He could do it cheaper because it was done quicker and more efficient. And he really became a master of efficiency with a completely different industry. Right. And I think business in itself is as a sector. Understanding business is one thing. Understanding mindset's another thing. And then you get into the specifics. If you look at training, I think of training inside of business, personal development being number one, soft skills, communication, leadership. You cannot outperform your own inability to do something in a role. If you're an engineer, if you're a project manager, if you're a CEO, your personal skill set determines whether or not you're good at that job, not how good that job is for you. You can't go into a role if you're not personally able to acquire the skill sets needed. A lot of time we get performance opportunities. We perform well, we get opportunity to go to the next level. I remember as a leader in the field, I went from like a foreman to a project manager. So running one crew to like 3 or 4 crews. And it wasn't that difficult for me. Then an operator would become a foreman. A person sitting on a track all day digging a pipe became a leader of other people. Yeah. a lot of them were not good with people skills. They didn't know how to communicate. They didn't know how to have clarity with what they were expecting. They didn't know how to lead other people. And it was not the person unable to do it. They were never taught how.
Right.
So you tell someone, hey, you're a foreman now, and just expect them to go do it. It's not going to happen. Right. Hey, you're an engineer now. Okay, well, that's cute. What does an engineer need? So I always think that the personal development has to come first. If you can't communicate what you need, then how do you explain it? If you can't sell a vision, how do you become a CEO?
Right.
If you can't tell a story, how do you sell anybody anything?
Right.
Personal development is hands down my belief that the number one requirement for any type of fulfillment or success in life. Because if you can't develop yourself, you can't be developed.
Right.
It's really hard to hear that, though. Sometimes it's hard to understand that. So I think there's a personal development, number one. And then like in an industry, you need to know the industry itself, and then role specific. So if I had a training ladder, that's how it would be. And I have this framework put together, but it would be personal development, understand the human, understand their skill sets, understand their strengths and weaknesses and what they need to get better. And then go to like the company and then specific to the role. It's a very unique thought to have someone developed personally in a professional sector. And when we realize that we have to spend more time working on us than we do working on our role is when we start becoming successful. In 2 years, I started personal development for like an hour a day. In 2 years, I went from bottom $9 an hour-ish to running cruise. I thought all I did was apply myself on investing in me. And that was just time then. Then when I started investing money in myself, everything changed. For you, it's changing quickly.
Yeah.
So it's like you're drinking from a fire hose. You're learning all these different things that are a byproduct of just the right seat in the right community and the right group of people around you. Your network will showcase your net worth. It always does. Your friends will determine your future. Talk about the difference in mindset now, having that call every Tuesday. What do you think going into it? What's your thought process going into that call at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays? Like, what is it that, are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you scared? Are you like, I got a question to ask? What is it like?
Right. So I guess just to kind of, go into a little deeper effect of that, when you approached me to join the group, however that may have went through, I think I had mentioned to you that I wanted to do the one-on-one session rather than the group session. And within that explanation, I mentioned why I wanted to do that was because I think through a sense of fear of joining the group call. And yeah, I think your immediate response was, oh, well, then you're joining the group call. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I was not quite ready for that. And I think it was very obvious, through my first maybe 3 weeks. I think on my third week, when I was probably feeling the most confident was when I was like, I'm pretty sure during my discussion, I drew a complete blank and I had to, withdraw from whatever I was trying to say at the time. And it was like a horrible experience, personally, I should say. But over time, it's just been one of the greatest experiences. I would say week 4, after having that, default call, I was like, oh my, I was still nervous. I think that call went very well. And ever since then, I think that, it's just wonderful to want to show up every Tuesday. I'm a person that's cut corners in life and dipped out on certain things that are on the schedule or made excuses as to why I can't be there, whether they be real or not. So for me to continue to show up, week after week and in a way still be nervous, but, over time have gained so much confidence and want to be there because, the knowledge that we gain from that is just unreal. Just passing around, especially when the floor gets opened up and this, that, and the other, and what you speak on in the beginning. I think it's just been a wonderful experience overall. So
as soon as you mentioned the confidence thing in our messages, I was like, if he just commits to this, just committing to signing up will change it.
Right.
And I think I even told you that, like, if you wait the amount of time that you're waiting, however long it may be, you could overcome this big fear of yours. And you did very quickly. And you were the only one on that call that probably noticed that the way that you did.
Right.
From day one, I didn't notice anything. You didn't seem uncomfortable. We are normally very hard on ourselves and very unwilling to love ourselves and like say, you know what, that could have went better, but I did pretty decent. Normally, other people are not looking at us the way we look at ourselves either. And normally, a lot of people don't really give a shit. And it's hilarious how we paint this narrative in our head of what we believe to be true that no one else even sees. And that's, I think, always going to be that case. I think we are our own worst critic sometimes. But then there's the other side of it too, where sometimes our ego is so stubborn and so driven and so protected that we become the yes man, the person that knows it all, that no one respects because they're not willing to be vulnerable. Vulnerability to me is a strength, not a weakness. Admitting that you had fear of this thing and then having the balls to show up and say, you know what, I'm fearful, but I'm not afraid because I want to overcome this. That's confidence building in itself. Faking bravery when you're nervous, when you're scared, but still moving forward and facing the thing that you're, fearful of is bravery.
Yeah.
To say that I'm being brave and not being scared, it doesn't mean you're brave. When you're faking bravery, when you're acting like you're brave, but you're actually just going through and doing the thing, that is bravery.
Right. Because
to be brave or courageous, you have to have something that you're fearful of that you're doing anyways.
Right.
I think that's where everything starts to happen powerfully. No snooze being the first standard, it is something that most people struggle with. Oh. So for that to be good for you, I have more days. There is a much higher percentage of the day I don't want to get up. I don't feel like doing it. Yeah. Hell, nobody in their right mind wants to wake up at 2:50 a.m. and go work out like a savage.
Right.
But I don't negotiate with it. It's a lifestyle that now I could not undo it. It's kind of like a diet. It's not like anything else. If it works, why would you stop doing it? I think a lot of our destruction in life, myself included, came from a unknown or unworking place. This thing isn't working in life. I don't know why. I don't have an answer. To me, when I think of like sadness versus anxiety, I think anxiety is having too many options in life and not knowing which one to pick. I think sadness is not having any, where you don't know the answer. You don't know how to overcome this thing. Anxiety is having too many options, and that's where we become destructive a lot of time. We are at a place we want to be, but we don't have enough desire to get there yet. And then we have all these things that we are looking at that are shiny objects that we try, and then we become destructive. I think that's a natural thing for entrepreneurship, for anything, and the ability to focus on something. It's excruciatingly hard. It's really difficult because the more success you have, the more opportunity you have, but also the more distraction that comes with that opportunity if you commit to it. Commitment itself is powerful. Confidence always follows commitment. Even if you don't get where you want to go, you still build confidence because you still committed to something, did it. But there's foundational things that never go away, like your physical fitness, like personal development, the second and third standard, physical output, mental input. You got to exhaust the body, tame the mind. And then track and attack is the fourth one. Cannot manage what you cannot measure. And then the fifth and final one is gratitude and preparation, to have gratitude for everything that happens for us in life, regardless of what it was. End the day with a good thing. Prepare for the next day, because success today, Kody, started last night. They're really 5 simple concepts, and they're very basic. But to commit to them 5 will change anyone's life if you consistently stick with them. I'm sure you're committed to them to some extent. What's it been like since you have done that? What's the transition been like for you as far as, I notice this thing? It's not a mountain that you climb in a day, but it's a mountain you climb over time. The view's a lot better too.
Right. So I think, through the standards of greatness, specifically, I think one of the biggest things I've noticed is, actually noticing consistency. I wake up every day, do the same thing, at least on a Monday through Friday, eat the same thing, do the, my time blocks are blocked out. After I eat breakfast, I'm doing whatever I want to personally for the next hour and a half. I know what time I need to leave to get to work on time. I come home, my 5 to 9s are, executed as best I can. And I think that one of the biggest things I've found personally, maybe it's because of my schedule and how it aligns with, being having a full-time job, as well as trying to pursue entrepreneurship. But I think the biggest one for me is number 5. And within that, I think the preparation phase of that. And I think you've mentioned it before. There's times where I'll wake up, 3 o'clock in the morning, do everything I need to do. eat breakfast. I need to leave for work by 7:38, whatever it may be. And my lunch isn't packed for the day. So it's like, I think I can pack my lunch in, let's say, 12 minutes or something. I get, tuna out, whatever, mayonnaise, fruit, this, that, and the other, trying to do whatever I normally do at that time. And it's like, it takes me 30, 40 minutes, it seems like, to get that done. And it's like, oh, I'm running late, this, that. So I think that preparation, especially when it comes to the sense of the night before, has been one of the, the best factors for me of those 5 things. Cause it's like, I can pack my lunch on an evening full, clarity, execution, be done 5-10 minutes, where the next morning that might take me 30-45 minutes. That might be an exaggeration, but that's what ends up, surpassing throughout that duration.
Well, because you're probably trying to be quiet. You're probably maybe not trying to wake up other people in the household. You're not thinking about packing your lunch because you've already executed on the things to get you going for your day. So your thought progress is already started, and then your progress stopped and it's reversed back. So then it's almost like you're resetting your mental capacity in that moment, and then you forgot something, so it just pisses you off. And I do priority blocks, which it sounds like you do now too, and I have to have one train of thought in a priority block. I can't do a sales call, do a operational call, do a content. Like, the block has to be focused on a similar thing. If I'm developing or I'm creating or something of that sort, it's that time block. If I try to analyze a P&L and then do content on, some lifting thing the next minute, my thought process is going to be jaded completely. I'm not going to be able to be clear-minded. I always try to bundle things together in similar fashion. So if it's a coaching framework and I got something with R&R, well, they need to be aligned in some magnitude. Like, oh, I'm going to create a financial model, and then, okay, this is a lesson I can teach in the coaching program. So bunching the things together, Alex Hormozy calls it a manager or a maker. Like, he has his days laid out that way. He's doing manager type work where inside a business, meetings, whatever it may be, that's my Monday. Well, my Tuesday is more like my creator type of stuff, or my maker, where I'm making content, or I'm creating something, or I'm working on something that I need for the future or for that night. But if I try to do 2 things in different lanes, it's hard to drive in one. And I think them little hacks are so profound, so easy, but until you know them, they're hard to figure out, because you don't realize you don't know what you don't know. So it's hard to understand at the time that I feel like I'm being productive, but I'm not getting anything done.
Right.
And I found myself more times than not, am I busy or am I productive? Because there's a vast difference. So am I being really efficient, or am I just expending a lot of energy and I don't know it? And it's hard to see it until you do track certain things, until you do prepare the right way. A little preparation, if you prepare 15 minutes for a 60-minute coaching call, 15 minutes of prep can go a long way. It doesn't take a lot of preparation, but you have to be focused on that thing. Fail to prepare to fail. And I think that goes with anything in life. What we avoid will control us.
Right. Yeah, and I think I can kind of compare that to like a manufacturing engineering aspect. What a lot of people don't understand, like you mentioned, like when it comes to transitions, like if you're doing one thing and then next thing you got to do is like completely off topic to what you were previously doing, then that's you got to flip the page. You got to transition in mindset is significant. And that can often, cost you time, energy, whatever it may be.
Oh, guarantee it does.
Yeah. And I think, what I recognize most, from a manufacturing engineer perspective is like planning, operationally. What a lot of people don't understand, especially in manufacturing environments, is like you're wasting time through changeovers, right? So for instance, like you mentioned, changing, one mindset to another, that could cost you whatever, energy, time, whatever that may be. To compare that to a manufacturing sense, it's like, we got to change this machine over to run this part, but we run 5 or 6 different parts, and we're back ordered for all of them. Let's say, why would we switch the machine over from a 10-layer product to a 1-layer product when we have 9-layer products on the back order list? We can work our way down. And from an execution perspective, we're already done before you within that amount of setup time it would have took you to get back to flipping that whole page, whatever it may be, or going to a completely, unrelative topic that you were, previously executing on. So, I can compare that, very realistically.
I want to take a quick commercial break, and then I want to get back and talk about truth versus tradition, because I think it's the perfect segue for that. We'll be right back. This episode of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast is brought to you by R&R Pipeline Inc., an infrastructure company. Join our team today at rrpipelineinc.com. Welcome back to the Iron Infrastructure Podcast from commercial break with Kody Rostofer. And Kody, we were talking about efficiency and stuff right before the break. And I want to get into this thought about truth versus tradition. You're in manufacturing. There's a lot of traditional thought probably there. We always done it this way. This is how we do it. This is the way it's always been done. The way it's always been done is normally not the best way, Kody. And you might agree or disagree, but that is a statement that I will stand firm on to be true for majority of my life. Traditional thought, if it's never been done differently, it's always, this is the traditional way we've always done it. More than likely, the truth is it's outdated and not the best. What do you think about finding the truth and not living through tradition of thought process in any form or fashion, but specific to your industry?
All right, this is a great one. So, specific to my industry, I am very involved in documentation within the manufacturing role I'm, personally involved in. When it comes to that documentation, we're talking about processes and procedures that have been in place since some of the revision dates on these documents. I'm talking, 1998. Mm-hmm. The business might have been around since, 1938, but 1937, but I don't think we were printing documents at all back then. So I'm very against, in a way, the traditional method. If the traditional method, still applies to, what might be, realistic and what we're actually doing, then obviously that is what it is. No need to argue with that. But there's definitely a lot of traditional methods and procedurals out there, especially within manufacturing roles that have been, carried over for many, many years. And I think that, generationally, whatever generation I may be, as a 28-year-old, it's tough because, there's a quite a gap there, or a shift with just from one generation to the next. You're talking, people twice my age, and it's like that they do not resonate with what my concepts are or changes may want to be in any way. And their easiest, connection is to revert right back to the traditional methods. And I think that, we've, like I just said, in some ways those stand true, but most oftentimes there's, an improved and innovative method, to that. And I think that, people can fall behind quick and then quickly regret that, as time goes on.
I think it's our generation, and you're probably 10 years younger than I am, but in general, that mid 50s to 70, maybe mid 40s to 60, the age demographic today is very prone to go back to traditional thought. I think all of us are to some extent until we learn differently or learn better. We always lean on what we know. We lean on what is comfortable. If self-sabotage is all we ever knew, we're probably going to self-sabotage at some point. Have we not overcame that thing? I think tradition is what's comfortable from a young environmental standpoint, what's always been taught. I think today's world is more prone to having new tradition because of technology. My personal experience, but I don't want to see the world for what it was. I want to see the world for what it can be. I don't want to think about what the good old days are right now for me. It's not a past tense. The good old days are the current moment, the present moment. It doesn't get any better than this. This is the best part of my life right now. And it will be, because every day that I wake up, it's not one more day that I'm just living. It's one more day I am closer to dying. Now knowing that clearly and more definitively, we don't live forever, but our life on earth, we have to be alive. And so today is a good day. Today is the good old days. And it will always be the good old days as far as I'm concerned until I'm not here anymore, because life is what we make it. And if we want to be stuck on traditional thought from the past, then we're stuck in the past and we're not building a different future. Elon Musk, I've studied him so much with first principles thinking, especially. His ability to take a rocket ship and strap on some Walmart plastic bags, a match, and duct tape the shit out of it and send it in space is insane. What he does navigating through compliance and the traditional thought and then finding the truth. I don't know if you've read his autobiography or studied much of him with SpaceX. What he did with SpaceX, when he had him and SpaceX and Tesla were both at a breaking point. And everyone said, you have to invest in one. You can't invest in both. You might save one. You can't save both. Well, I don't know if you checked his net worth being $600 billion or not here recently. I think SpaceX had an $800 billion valuation, most recent. He not only saved both, he is the richest man in the world. He has created a absolute incredible platform for so many people, but he always is searching for the truth. And if you study him from a manufacturing standpoint, he puts the engineers in front of the assembly line. Yeah. They're studying it. They don't have separate. They are right in front of it. They're sitting there designing something that they're watching be put together. What's your thought on that?
Yeah. So I think, just to kind of touch base, I think that there's two negatives we've already discussed here. Instant gratification was already crossed over, in our previous discussion, but as well as now tradition. Being new to business, I think that those two things are quite detrimental. I think that a lot of people are searching for, an instant gratification way out. And I don't think that's quite plausible, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. I think that my involvement within the cryptocurrency industry was quite a determination of that. You statistically can see that people can make a lot of money with a little bit, and that is appeasing to instant gratification method or the easy way out. And once you really get skin in the game, it's not as sweet as it seems.
Once you get out of it,
yeah, exactly.
Time,
yeah. So it's like, I think that just to touch base on that real quick, I think that instant gratification and tradition both are two things and aligned that can be detrimental, especially to someone that wants to pursue entrepreneurship. And you touched on Elon Musk and the assembly line, whatever it may be. And I think following traditional methods, Elon Musk would never be worth $400 billion. So I think that it's quite obvious that the largest separation with his net worth in comparison to anybody else, up until now, is that his dreams were way bigger than anybody could have imagined, and I think still are. It's easy for the average person to look at what his goals are and laugh, but as you witness his progress, it becomes more unlaughable. From somebody who truly recognizes and feels what it takes to get to a level, even remotely along that path.
Well, I mean, from an engineering standpoint, he's remarkable, like incredible. IQ obviously off the charts, but he doesn't have any risk. He has no ability to analyze risk. He really doesn't. I think he has Asperger's, I believe, but he has like a default where he can't analyze risk. He doesn't process emotion very well, which has probably been detrimental to his personal life. Also, probably the reason he is as successful as he is professionally. But he never cared about money. It was never money for him that was the driving force. Money was the byproduct of that greatness that he wanted to achieve, the way he wanted to change the world. Steve Jobs, another one. I reference him a lot. I've studied a lot of his work. He didn't care about money. He cared about changing lives for the daily consumer, putting a portable computer in the home of every American. That's what his big overarching thing was. Obviously, it went from ground zero Macintosh to what Apple is today, $450 billion revenue a year company. Yeah. But Steve Jobs was also driven by the passion, not the profit. Right. The profit was the byproduct. It takes a long time to do anything good in business. It takes a really long time to do anything great. If you can do something for a year consistently, you can achieve some good. 3 years, you can achieve some good. But if you can delay that gratification for a decade, you can do something great. If you can delay the gratification for a lifetime, you can change the world. And them two guys have absolutely changed the world. But it's so hard to realize that the true reward in the whole thing is the process of getting to that destination, that you never actually get to a destination that stops. It's an evolving thing, and it becomes harder when you realize that reality. The destination is only a direction. It is part of the dream, but the real win is the journey to get there. Who I become is a byproduct of the outcome, not the outcome is who I become. We are not tied to our accomplishments in that regard, because we don't accomplish anything if we're not capable of doing it. And the goals and aspirations and dreams that we have are only a byproduct of the standard that we set for ourselves. If we don't live a certain way, we don't accomplish a certain thing.
Right.
We cannot prioritize goals to get to where we want. It's who we have to become to be able to achieve it. That's why we have to invest in ourselves. And we think about leverage. Leverage should be a driving force of that efficiency, not labor. So touch on leverage over labor from a manufacturing standpoint, where it's not really how can we throw more people and do more physical labor on it, but the leverage that we can find with the efficiency side.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, both personal and, from a manufacturing perspective, I really value leverage. I think that, a lot of people are held back, and we can touch back to the traditional methods, leverage is unpresent, in a lot of people's mindsets. When I think of leverage, I directly correlate that to taking a risk. It takes money to make money, and I think that that's a very simple form of leverage. And when it comes to manufacturing, especially, I work for a company that is very still manually operated within an industry that's highly automated. And we're still trying to be the top competitor, produce the lowest cost, the highest quality product, this, that, and the other. But I think there was a position where we had the opportunity to leverage, and we chose not to because of whatever that may be, traditional methods, wanting to retain, we got a local workforce, everybody that lives in this town now works for us, and, they, are prideful of that reputation, but everybody else within the industry has replaced those people now with robots, machines, whatever that may be. And, it's quite obvious when you get to that longer term picture, 10, 20 years down the road, not only can you not compete with product costs because they're doing it at a much more efficient rate, you can't really catch up to their rate either, because your payback period on your expenditure, whatever that may be, has now become way more significant than what it could have been if you would have followed the wave that everybody else had. So I think that leverage is one of the most grateful things in business, but it can be detrimental in toxic environments, I think. But missing out on opportunities that you can leverage and then expecting to be able to catch up in the end, I think that's a very poor mindset, whether that be business or personal.
Well, every industry, every business, if you're in competition against anyone else, just visualize a starting line for a 100-meter race. You're in a track race. Everyone has the same goal,
Right?
Profitability to win the race, whatever. Everyone has the same goal, so the outcome is clear for everybody. But it's not the best goal set that gets you there. It's the system, the preparation, the things that you do to win that race. The day of the race is just showcasing the preparation that you did, the work you put in before, the leverage that you figured out that could make you more efficient in doing it. So tie that into, on the personal note, thinking about winning that race, and then your life in itself as a race.
Yeah.
So your goals and aspirations are only yours. If you're standing there trying to compete against someone else for your dream, you're not actually accomplishing anything for you. You're trying to do it against someone else. We are only capable of living out our dreams as everyone else's dream for us dies. So a realization is you have to live with yourself for the rest of your life. If you want to live out your dream, everyone else's dream is really irrelevant. Your dream has to be at the forefront. knowing that your competition isn't everyone in the world around you, your peers. We're not in competition for our dreams against each other. The starting line of that 100-meter race is just you racing you. You have to live with yourself forever. Your one guarantee in life, as long as we're alive, we have to live with us. Mm. Investing in yourself, the person that you see when you look in the mirror, the person that you're capable of becoming, you got to live with that person. So you better make sure you like them.
Yeah.
Would you be a friend of yourself? And it's a thought that if you treated yourself or you talked to yourself a certain way that was negative, I guarantee you wouldn't talk to your friends that way. You wouldn't talk to someone that you love the way that you normally talk to yourself. In general, we are harder on ourselves than we would ever be on anyone else. We expect more maybe out of ourselves, but at the same time, we got to like us. Would you be a friend of yourself? Investing in you, putting yourself in the right community of people, getting yourself around people that want to help you win. Have you had any circumstances now, personally, whether it be in a business or personal realm, where you have bigger dreams and aspirations you ever did before? Everyone's cheering for you when you first talk about it because you're still on that same level playing field. But when you actually go accomplish something, Kody, you start to see the cheers become boos. But then you realize that you're staying in an arena by yourself. Right. And the only thing that you're fighting is living out that dream. And then there's just a bunch of critics in the stands. And you have to let that opinion of others against you just subside, let it go. Are you in the arena now? Do you understand what I'm saying when I say all that? Are you a friend to yourself? Are you someone that wants to be the best version of you as a superhero? Does that make sense? Or
oh yeah.
How does that? When I say all that, what do you think of?
Yeah. So I guess personally, the first thing that comes to mind is something I'll speak narrowly and then kind of open up to my life overall and where I currently stand in employment and business. But when you were touching base on accomplishing things, but you're not there to impress other people. Just to kind of put that into perspective, Jeffrey had asked me to do a 4-mile race in Granville, outdoor, run, whatever that may be. It wasn't necessarily a race, a 4-mile run. And I was instantly was down to do that. If he would have asked me to do a 13-mile run or something, I think that I would have had to say no because, I would have at that point been there to impress someone else other than myself. And I don't think that fulfillment lies in that sense. Being competitive is great, but it can also be detrimental as well. But I think when it comes to, fulfillment within my overall life, like you talk about, and I've listened to your videos and, climbing the wrong ladder, your ladder's on the wall, this, that, and the other. So it's like, I want to say 14, 15 years old, I was in a class at Licking Valley High School, and it was like, they were wanting you, and no disrespect, they were wanting you to, pick a path or a role that you might be interested in. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do? Right. First thing that come to mind is like, I don't want to, not have any money. So I'm like, that's, went down the path, things that might interest me. So engineering kind of fell into the film, role. And then I'm like, well, mechanics, I'm pretty good with small engines, working on motorcycles, this, that, and the other. So I'm like, mechanical engineering. I had no clue what the hell that was. I was like, I need to choose a path, went through college, did it well because I was capable of, showing up and doing what I was asked to do. Not a big fan of the educational system, personally, but
Same.
We won't touch base too deep on that right this second. But yeah, so I think that, what I quickly found was, I was an operator at the company I worked for that paid for me to become an engineer, and, the majority of it at least. And, as an operator, I was busy all day. I was getting shit done. Wasn't making crazy money, but, and I loved it, Oh, we have a production, a rate that we were supposed to meet. I bet I beat that rate, then some, and it's funny to say that now because, on the engineering side within the same company, you rarely see that nowadays. But anyways, when I took on an engineering role, I was like, what the hell are we doing? Everybody was like, dude, I would go to work and I'd be like, what are we doing? Nobody was doing nothing. And I still kind of live in that role, just by being around engineers and adapting to that environment over the last 3 or 4 years, I would say, has definitely, maybe better at making myself look busy when there's not shit to do. but I can tell you right now, I still hate it. So, I think that for me to recognize that and understand that that's not going to be fulfilling on my deathbed, and that's why, at least for the current state, I'm interested in taking an engineering role for myself, from a consulting perspective, and I think that's just the biggest factor, is having that ability to choose what I want to do and follow my dream. And I think that the fulfilling side will be more, whether I fail or pass, I think that by trying, I'll be more fulfilled than by sitting there being bored all day.
The only failure is quitting and not trying.
Yeah.
When you first start, you're going to work your ass off, and it's going to be excruciating. People are going to tell you that you're delusional. Play it safe. That's not for you. You're not that person. You're not capable. Everybody's going to be right, though, Kody, until you prove them wrong. But really, the likelihood of me buying Arnold Pipeline when I started saying that at 22 was so laughable. There was a 0.01% chance maybe on a good day that it was possible. Logically, not possible. But faith is what drove me to be able to make it logically possible. Everybody is normally right about us for the majority of our life, and they're going to tell us that we should have played it safe, we can't do it, and most people will quit because of that. But it's funny whenever you actually break through that thing, you actually accomplish it. Man, it must be nice.
Yeah.
And the same people that criticized you, told you to play it safe, criticize you after and say, must be nice. You got that handed to you. Must be fucking nice, Kody, right? Every time I've heard that, I just smile. It is nice. Because I chased the thing that was impossible to get. I got it. You said, play it safe, then acknowledge the hard work, and now tell me it must be nice. And you haven't progressed yourself any, and you're looking at me. I'm living in your head rent free, and I don't care. It's amazing, though. You're going to be chronically miserable for a while, because until you take that pursuit or that understanding, you don't understand what it's for. What is life for? It's like cosmic irrelevance, where no matter what you do, it's all irrelevant because you die anyways. And it's that thought process that I think a lot of people get and probably don't even realize that what's it all for? Back to being alive, though. Some people don't get buried till they're 75, but die at 25. And I think that's majority of people today, because they don't ever figure out something that actually creates them a platform to be alive. Everyone's going to have a point where they're unsure. Being on your deathbed, though, and thinking, what if?
Well,
The worst question of my lifetime would ever be, what if? If I ask that to myself on my deathbed, I will forever be regretful of that. And that's why we're sitting here today, and that's why I refuse to have that be a question. The what if starts right now, because it's not what if I don't, it's what if I do. What's possible if I do? Is it the right thing? What if it turns out to be the best thing ever? What if it transforms everything in my life? What if the good, not what if the bad? If you can be in a bad mood for no reason, you can be in a good mood for no reason, but also the same. If you can think about the worst possible outcome, why can you not think about the best possible outcome and believe both of them could be true?
Yep.
I don't believe in hypotheticals. I think they're hypocritical. But I do think a lot of people hypothetically look at the worst. Logically hypothetical. But if you take another route, logic is going to get you so far. I think data logic is 80-90% of driving decision making, if you have good data, obviously. Call it 80-20 data, 20% feeling, experience, emotion. Faith for me, though, was 20% that got me to 100% of who I am today. Now I lean on data a lot more, but I still have that faith that something can or can't happen. Hypothetical logic goes away at some point. You got to freaking believe it in your heart, not just in your head. Faith to me is all about leading with your heart to believe something's possible, good outcome. Hypothetical, logic-driven, possibility-driven, bad outcome. You got to make the choice sometimes. What is the outcome that you really want, not what is logically right in front of you. It's hard to decipher the two, but when you can take data and desire and put them together, it's really powerful to see that come close together and say, you know what? Logically, I can get here. Desire, I can get here, and I'm going to go for it and find it out. And the only thing that's a failure to me is if I quit trying along the way. That's what purpose is. That's what fulfillment is. We don't know that until we're actually doing it. The hardest times, the darkest days, the heaviest weight, when you know it's the worst, you know that you've been doing this a long time, you should have seen results a while ago. All these bad things are piling up, and you don't think it can get worse than it can. And it's just heavier and heavier and heavier. The heavier it gets, the more pain that you're enduring, the more progress you're getting ready to have. And it will change in a matter of moments. I've had moments where I thought the worst thing, I can see no way out. There's zero light. The tunnel's collapsed. You're 3 feet from gold. You just had to shift the course a little bit, and you're right there. Understanding, though, there is no pain-free life. Anything worth doing is going to be painful. Anything that you want to chase that's going to be valuable is going to be hard. The shortcut doesn't exist. If you want the shortcut, take the long road. You're not going to have an easy life and a life full of character. To have good character, you got to have a hard life, I think. And it means you got to have challenges that you overcome. From destruction to destiny now with what you're doing. First and foremost, I'm proud of you, dude. Proud of you for being on the show right now, because I know this is something that probably in the back of your mind was just heavy to come do. You didn't even flinch when I asked you to come on the show. I don't think 6 months ago that would have been so true. So, dude, freaking proud of you. I cannot say it enough. I don't think words can express how internally grateful I am for you joining the program, being on here today. So as we close out, I want to give you a couple minutes. What's next for Kody? And then if you have anything you want to plug, where the people can find you out on social media, anything you want to put out there for the world to see. What's next for Kody? Where can they find you?
All right. So I don't really have a full social media outlook now as far as business. I'm definitely headed that direction. So
what's your personal account?
Personal account, Kody Rostofer 99 Instagram, Kody Rostofer Facebook. I'm working on rebuilding my X account. So that'll be disclosed on my LinkedIn profile that I'm working on now. When it comes to, personal outlook, that is what it is. But as far as my business outlook, Midwestern Technicals is the name of my business. I would probably go more with a Midwestern Engineering Group for a DBA when it comes to my LinkedIn profile exposure. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Any engineering or consulting services you may need, whether that be, quality management systems, ISO 9001, ERP system build outs for manufacturing environments, hands-on work, robot integration, especially collaborative robots, anything. I have definitely got a good supply for machined parts. So if you need anything from a machine shop perspective, definitely get a hold of me and I can get you tied in with that as well. So absolutely.
Kody with a K, right?
Yes, sir. Kody with a K. Kody.
Yeah. Want to make sure to mention that just for everyone to find you. When your business is all put together, we can make sure to put it in the show notes too. Okay. So whenever that comes about, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you mentioned all them there. I'm really proud of you, Kody. I'm really grateful that you're here today. Any final thoughts as we kind of close out? Anything else on your mind that you want to touch on maybe?
Yeah. So I guess, just being here alone, like you had just mentioned a minute ago, was definitely something that I was very fearful of in a way. I'm hoping I handled it well. It feels great.
Did amazing.
It feels great to be here. So I appreciate the opportunity. Absolutely. You reached out to me, whether that be through Nate, whoever it may have been, to join the Unlocking Greatness call. That has been life-changing for me. It's been years. Just to be completely transparent, it's been at least 4 or 5 years. I've never had a single person in my life that's driven me to be successful and want to be an entrepreneur. 99% of the people around me, even to this day, like I don't even want to talk to them about it because I'm stupid for trying to do that or crazy, or I have life made as it is. And why would I do this, that, and the other? But you know, when it comes to, you know, the life you want to live and being fulfilled, you know, definitely don't be afraid to take action, take risk, leverage yourself, because you never know what's on the other side. And the only way to find out is to actually, you know, take that action. And the only way to not find out, if there's any success that lies within you, is to just, you know, sit around and be stagnant. So I definitely suggest in taking action and finding who you are and, you know, finding gratitude within that.
So the real risk is not trying.
Exactly. 100%.
Love it. Love it. Kody, appreciate your time today. For all those that want to look at joining the program, go to jacobhemmer.com. Unlocking Greatness group program on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time. The community's growing. Like you said, we had Jeffrey just join. It's starting to really get some momentum. This is going to be a big breakthrough year for all of us. And I'm looking forward to seeing Kody grow along with everyone else in the group. For now, Kody, I'm going to let you get out of here today. Appreciate your time. It's been another edition of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast with this badass over here, Kody Rostofer. Kody, appreciate your time. Until next time, we're out.
Thank you.
Stop telling yourself one day. It isn't about one day, it's about day one. Today should be your day one. What you need isn't another day. What you need is clarity with the community to give you confidence to unlock your greatness. That's what the group coaching program is all about. Confidence, clarity, via commitment. Hit the show link in the notes. Let's start unlocking your greatness now, today.